Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I told you it would only be a quick moment. We are getting ready to get into our Nets teams here. Radiance and No Team. I'm still here, Travesty, joined with Smats, and we have a new guest here joining us for this. Cubby, how are you doing, man? You got to sit back and watch some crazy games here.
I know. I feel like I had like the best seat in the house for the last two games, and I mean, I think it's so perfect. Like, given the fact that this is the second year of Proving Grounds, that iteration, and so many players that we really had our eyes on this past year did get promoted. 16 players into Academy, but you know what? That does open up a lot of rooms for new faces to emerge, and I think it says a lot that our top two teams, one of them, of course, being an Academy team. They got pushed to the limits going to 3. And I think that a lot of players in that series made a name for themselves. Of course, 100 Thieves next and GGA still taking those wins across both streams. But I think it's a big opportunity, 2022, given the new focus that we have on NA talent. And I love seeing some of those players step up early. And looking forward to seeing who might step up in this game because, man, I think these are two of the youngest and most exciting teams when it comes to the personnel outside of the LCS affiliates. I'm really excited to get into this game.
Yeah, speaking of new NA talent, we are still here in Group A, the group of the Zoomers. All three 15-year-olds are in this group. We just saw Sniper take his first series win, and now we have Griffin versus Crimson. So it's just a great group to have some games in. I'm really excited by this one, and I'm really pumped to get into the gameplay as well.
It's the group of all the freshest North American talent that can possibly be showing up here, right? You were talking about it before, like when we were off air, about how this group itself has some of the youngest players inside of it. And talking about the youngest players that are inside of it, man, looking at the squad, Radiance and No Team, they've got some scary things in their pocket that can be. There's a lot of contention that could possibly come out here. Cubby, if you'd like to touch on that, as there's a lot going on here.
I think our big focus for this matchup is actually in the center of the map, the mid-jungle duo. As on the side of Radiance, Bluster and Crimson, we did see Crimson's twin in that last series in General Sniper or Sniper. Now we get to see Crimson. And I think that this is a player that I'm really excited about Crimson. I think it's really fair, or you know, his twin brother, number one on the ladder. I think one of the most insane mechanical prospects that NA has ever produced from the ladder. But Crimson is right up there as someone that's very talented. And, man, his Syndra in 2 games, 2 out of the 3 wins for Radiance came off of his Syndra with a 13.5 KDA across both. I think it's going to be a really important pick. And Bluster, he's only 16 as well. He subbed in for EGP, didn't make Proving Grounds as that last second sub. But I'm really looking forward to seeing him in the system for another year and with a more stable roster with some talented pieces around him.
These two are super aggressive. They were playing things like Rek'Sai and Kayn as well. Blue Kayn, not the healing Kayn, the killing Kayn. That variety.
5 and 6, yeah.
Yeah, that guy was crazy, Bluster, in the games yesterday. And yeah, I think the focus around the mid jungle is really important. Griffin and Blaze as well had a really stellar OQ. On top of that, they executed some really sick dives on the mid lane as well. So expect some fireworks in this lane for sure.
100%. And I mean, it's not even just, you look at the mid jungle and we talk about how it's going to be fireworks popping off inside of it. Man, you look at everybody that's around it too, and it's easy to see them igniting their own path here too. I mean, you've got players like Dragoon, who just came off of a first place finish inside of Scouting Grounds, who's looking to continue to make a name for themselves as well. And you've got all these different pieces that are around this mid jungle that's already hype enough as is. It's looking absolutely insane. And honestly, seeing these two teams clash, this is a matchup I've been looking forward to personally all day.
And you didn't even mention the bottom lane here for No Team, Scooped and the artist formerly known as Plux. These guys had some really good games as well. I specifically remember the Jinx Zillion that they performed super well on in the team fights in the last couple of days in the OQs on top of that. So just stacked with talent all across the board. I think this is going to be one of our most competitive best of threes in the entire group stage.
Absolutely agree there, man. And I want to real quick go ahead and go into something that was a contention in the last game here as we're looking to get everything prepared. I'm seeing the draft and how important it was in the last couple of games that we saw in both the unified stream and then over here. Is there any picks in particular that you guys are looking at to be a contested pick or have huge importance here?
So the Syndra for me is definitely one, as I think Crimson was superb on the Syndra, and that contributed to 2 out of the 3 wins, the only 2 games that he played it. Also, for Blaze, on the flip side, he was 9-0-1 in his one Syndra game as well. Jinx, as Smacks properly mentioned, for Scoop,
Yep.
2-1 on that champion. But I think the top lane, you kind of painted it, given the fact that like some of the pieces around this really exciting and electric mid-jungle duo for each of these teams, I think Dragoon and Porsche actually really slept on in their position. Porsche, only 17. He is playing in collegiate. He's a year ahead of his class. Really speaks to how intelligent this guy is and also mature for his age. And he's really started to mature as a player, getting outside of just being a gangplank player, something that will be contested between him and Dragoon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that like when you kind of shift that into how these teams play, it really feels like Radiance kind of operates through Crimson and no team kind of operate through Griffin. And I feel like Griffin's champion pool, like him leading on Hecarim, Xin Zhao, I think that that's a little bit different than what we've been seeing out of some of the junglers. So I really want to see if Griffin gets a funnel game. I feel like that's where the 15-year-old's in his comfort zone, whereas Bluster kind of playing those assassins or marksmen is where he really leans. So that's kind of like an answer, no answer. But honestly, I don't even know what side these teams are on, so I'm just kind of excited to get in here and see what happens for game 1, and we can talk more about that from there.
Yeah, and before we get into game 1, you were talking about intelligence. We need to go ahead and throw out the predictions here and see who really is showing some intelligence here, as this is where it gets a little bit contested. Everybody else, 103 GG.
Everyone's right so far.
Everyone's right.
Hold on. Dude, do I have to like what do I have to do? Like send a pigeon to get my my graphic out here?
I'm not in here either. I think
we're set. Okay, that's
either,
a bigger
yeah.
crime. Yeah, I'm only here for the day.
So I mean, I guess it's just because they knew that we were the big brains here. We were always going to be right with our predictions. Yeah, it would be unfair to have us in this competition. So
you know what? I'll put my money where my mouth is. I got no team for this one. I think they have a little bit more experience. Radiance is hands down the youngest team that we have, and while I am excited about some of their initial pieces, I do think that no team's on better form right now, especially given the fact that Raheen was split between whether or not he wanted to play AD or support. I feel like he's still kind of getting back to those marksman skills. We know that he can deliver. He has made it to Proving Grounds, both splits, but not quite there yet for me. And I think no team is playing really well right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the game is ready. It is prepped. It is ready. The casters are ready to send it. So, Dia, Rude Dude, take it on away.
Yes, we are, Trav. Yes, we are. We are so close to being able to start our second best of 3. And he said it himself, we're super hyped, and it just gets so much better because we started off the day with this really big Titan taking on an underdog. But now we have got these 2 teams, and what our analyst desk has rightly sort of topped is the closest match of the day, Rude Dude. And I'm sort of missing the word here. I would say on the edge of my seat as to which team is going to show up, because as Cubby was alluding to, no team have looked really good recently, but you and I both discussed that Radiance has a peak that is so high.
I think that this is a really entertaining feature where the desks seem to be leaning more toward no team. I know I'm obviously with my predictions up there leaning a little bit more towards Radiance. I am very high on Lightpulse as a support player, exceptionally excited to see what they will be able to provide during this series, and particularly when we've seen roaming supports be so incredibly impactful in our last series. If Lightpulse gets his hands on that once again, I think that could be a very key piece into the puzzle to set Radiance up for success. So going into it, we've got the draft here, got a lot of picks to try and dissect here. We talked about Syndra, or they talked about Syndra on the desk potentially being contested, Gangplank as well. Those are solo laners, and from what we saw previously, we tend to see those left till the second pick, or second round really, of the pick ban. But when you have so much priority on a set of champions, maybe you just bypass that entirely.
I will say, unfortunately, we're not going to be getting a Jinx. I was really hoping Scoop would be able to pilot that, but with Radiance taking it away, I think that they are just as aware as our AD is, and the Gangplank removal as well says a lot, as does the Caitlyn, interestingly enough, something that you and I are a little bit more used to on the red side.
Yeah, second time we've actually seen it taken away on blue here, and now you're sort of pigeonholed, I guess, into do you want to ban away the Jhin or accept that that is likely to be first pick for Raheen? Aphelios still exists here as the sort of S- tier of AD carry that you can take, a bit of a budget jinx in terms of the late game hyper carry potential, but no team here, they've still got a lot. Okay, well, they've got a lot of junglers up on the board right now, no real bans drawn either way. It's the Lulu first pick right here for Radiance, and they're going to be looking to pilot that one, hopefully with a hyper carry down on the bot side, but with both Jinx and Aphelios taken away already, you may be looking at something a little bit lower down in that tier list.
Could they be going for a cog
Vayne.
armor, dude? That would be my hope here.
No, it's a Vayne.
Lord, you're right. You're absolutely right. As soon as I said it, I was like, yeah, probably not. Because I was surprised to just not see the Jhin picked up right there. It's one of those other AD carries that does fall into very high priority, as we already saw today.
Hey!
So Rock on the other side. Let's go!
No, let's put that accent. Let's put a plug in that one immediately. We've got Scottish Deer. He's being pinned in the desk. No, thank you. But Soraka coming through, right? The healing is pretty much the byproduct. It is the entirety of this identity of this champion right now. It does have some fairly good laning as well with the amount of harass that you can put down with Equinox. There was a time in previous season where you would put 3 points in Equinox just for that laning phase harass. Scorch as well. But with the MF at that side, expecting to see maybe a bit of a team fight oriented composition already drafted here. That bullet time certainly going to be a big tool in those late game team fights. And it looks like Radiance trying to battle lane prio with lane prio here. We've gone back a season already. Varus versus Misfortune going to be our AD carry matchup. Radiance now have their option of jungler to take here. We talked about what Bluster tends toward here, but it's not even going to be that jungler, that high priority mid laner that the desk talked about. Syndra taken away and picked up by Crimson.
Dude, the plot thickens. Varus here gives us a lot of options, and as you talked about, that Syndra as well makes this a very good pick composition from Radiance, but it still leaves me with that little bit of a mystery for the Lulu. Are you going to go attack speed Varus and try and use her there, or are we getting a jungler later on, or a top laner even, that will benefit from everything that Lulu has to offer and provide some sort of hyper carry in their own right? With the Hecarim on the other side, you certainly could use a bruiser to be able to counter it, as both Varus and Syndra would have a difficult time going through his HP bar, and the second one that he's getting with Soraka.
And now as we head then into this second round of picks and bans, we have this mismatch in our picks. We've got bot lanes on both sides, but we've got a mid laner for Radiance and a jungler for no team. Now we expect to see those pools pinched. You can see the Lee Sin already taken away. Let's see something like the Xin Zhao, potentially a Jarvan who is particularly obnoxious for Misfortune Soraka to deal with, taken away from Bluster. Already one mid matchup that they don't want to be playing up against. LeBlanc taken away on one side, very real possibility that Radiance opt into a second as their set of bans come through. But now no team, they've got a really easy section through the next round of red side picks here, because they're going to counter pick on both solo laners. This is what Radiance have sort of opted into with this Syndra pick. They know, okay, first off, we are 100% confident in this Syndra pick, regardless of what you pick, what you take as an answer. So they've sort of laid down the gauntlet there and said that, staked that, put their stake on that immediately. They're also going to have the counter pick of top lane to deal with as well. And now we have to sort of see, what does Porsche want to take away?
I mean, with good reason, I think. You're nervous going up against this Syndra, Crimson's Syndra, that was hyped up by Cubby on the desk, but a Yone could throw a wrench into all of those plans. Is this really the gauntlet being thrown here? Because, make no mistake, this mid lane is not a quiet one.
Picking Yone into Crimson, it's like picking Viper. It's like picking Riven into Viper. This is the bread and butter of this guy's champion pool. Yasuo Yone player, incredibly proficient on them, and Blaze now laying down the gauntlet. He's saying, "Hey, this is your champ. Guess what? I can pilot and do with it my own rights." An incredibly entertaining draft already from both of these teams here. Gauntlet after gauntlet being thrown down at one another, and that's a very small part of me, dear, a very small part of me that wonders if the Soraka is a flex pick. And I'm going to leave it there and say that, because we've got the rest of it as well to still exist. We've got Viego that has locked itself on in, and now the blind pick top for Porsche. We're expecting to see this be a fairly stable top laner. Weak-sided is how Radiance like to play with their top lane Porsche. It is not a particularly carry presence for the Radiant squad, but what he lacks in the carry aspect of what you may see on screen, he more than makes up for in his conversational skills and in the communications that he's providing to the squad.
Yeah, I'm very surprised to see him opt into the Ornn as well, because though we have heard that he's very vocal, we often get him as this sort of rock in the top side that isn't quite nearly so solid in terms of his HP pool, but more of tends to be this constant threat. You have something like a Graves, you have a Camille that does draw resources. Ornn is much more for team fighting and is a little bit of a divergence from the playstyle that Radiance has shown us so far, even if I completely believe that Porsche is able to pilot it. We're going to see that tested right now and up against a Gwen no less, so it isn't going to be an easy lane by any means.
And looking at these compositions now as a whole, now that everybody's pulled out what they so desire, Radiance here, they've got themselves pieces of good team fight here. Ornn is a very good frontline. Viego with those resets really can pop off, and dependent on the build that we get from Raheen, this Varus as well can do very good either instances or consistent DPS. But we look at No Team here, and their team fight just screams priority for them. Like, they should be winning these 5v5s. You've got Needle work across 3, a Fate Sealed on top of a bullet time. Just, it is death, essentially. You get hit by either one of those, the other one's going to be layering over on top. And then the Onslaught of Shadows as well, Griffin going to be that huge front line. In addition to having Fury with all of the healing, formerly Plux, that is going to be coming out of this Soraka, the counter pick to the Lulu that they've deemed incredibly appropriate, what they wanted here. I'm incredibly excited to see what these 5 versus 5s look like. And it's not even like the side lane is bad for No Team either. We look at the Gwen versus Ornn matchup, pretty much throughout the duration of the game, we're expecting Gwen to come out on top of that one. Blaze versus Crimson in the side lane, the Yone versus Syndra matchup. We've got sort of the power pick of both of these guys coming to blows with one another, and as that moves out into the side lane as well, you anticipate that Yone surely to have the advantage versus the Syndra in the 1 versus 1. So there are plenty of tools for No Team here in this game to find success.
I will say that, speaking of tools, one of the ones that I see sort of lacking on the side of Radiance is access to the Soraka. It's very unlikely, I would say, that Ornn is able to perfectly line up what would be a very, very long-range call of the Forge God. It's going to be very difficult for a Heartbreaker to land, for Varus to be able to lock somebody down, and you just haven't got that much backline access to be able to jump on top of somebody like the Soraka, especially if No Team are on the front foot. It's a really big test for Radiance to be able to find these picks before the team fights go off, to be able to jump onto somebody like the Yone, like the Gwen, and delete them with the incredible amount of damage and CC that they have when combining that Varus, that Syndra, the Lulu, the Viego. All of those guys have to work together simultaneously to eliminate somebody from the board, because if not, No Team have plenty of healing. We can't hear you, Rude. Please come back. Join us once more. We'll find out. We'll find out when Rudude ends up rejoining us. But of course, a lot of this is going to be that pivot that we talked about. Radiance seem to be setting themselves up for a different style into the season. We're going to take a very short break before we pop into the game, and then we'll be right back in just a few minutes with the first game of Radiance versus No Team. And as we pop onto the Rift for the first game of Radiance versus No Team, the stage has been more than set, Rudude. We've got plenty of time to see how this one plays out with, like we already know, Radiance needing to throw out that lockdown, throw out that damage, and find themselves numbers advantages, but they gotta group up to do that, and grouping up is so far away from 0 minutes.
It is. We've got that entirety of this early game. Of course, there's a chance that we try and cheat it. There's a chance that we just go for these incredibly aggressive roams, incredibly stacked overloads onto a top lane, into a bot lane dive, and force those issues, and really put yourself back in a great position through the early stages of the game. But we're expecting this, I'm at least expecting these early stages to be pseudo Radiance favored, because I think that the No Team composition just needs an item. Taking an item to scale up. Yes, Misfortune, a very powerful laner, but I think that the Lulu probably offers a little bit more than the Soraka does in the laning phase. Varus as well, an incredibly strong laning AD carry to match what the Misfortune is going to be putting down. And to hone in on this 2v2 in particular, Varus has Grievous Wounds built into his kit. If you're able to land the Hail of Arrows, the big AoE patch that goes down, you can actually really destroy a Soraka's trading potential by immuning half of the healing or so that she does pop out.
Now, there were a few things that our analyst desk touched on as well that have the potential still to happen inside of this early game before we really get rolling, and a lot of that has to do with the two players that everybody groups up around, that everybody plays around, Crimson and Griffin, respectively. Crimson has a lot of potential to roam over to help his jungler Bluster, two incredibly talented young players, to start the game off on the right foot, and on the other hand, we've all seen a Hecarim gank, and vision simply does not matter that much when there is a Hecarim coming at you. So if Griffin can find the right angles here, he could start to get his own lanes, much like Dragoon, like Blaze ahead.
Yeah, Crimson and Bluster, 31 years old combined, right? 15 and 16 years old. These guys are incredibly young, incredibly raw, untapped talent so far. They're already competing in a group stage here of a Proving Grounds qualifier event. And obviously they're going to be, with Bluster has a slight bit of experience formerly on the EG Prodigies program that he stepped in for EGL playoffs. And of course going to be hoping to see what he can bring to that if he learned anything from the sort of infrastructure there that is provided. And then, of course, on the other side of things, Griffin as well, another incredibly young jungler. There is so much untapped talent that we're thinking maybe need to see just a little bit of harnessing, a little bit of refinement. And I think that that's maybe some of the concerns, that there's an incredibly high ceiling for these players, the mid-jungle duo on both sides, but there's equally a flaw there that if you make one mistake, you may well fall quite far down that cliff.
Yeah, it's very, very scary to be approaching this game, having that knowledge. One of the things, especially when we talk about harnessing people's strengths, that we had hyped up, you and I, before this game began, was a lot of Light Pulse and how often we expect, need him to roam inside of these games. But on the Lulu, things do change quite a bit. We're going to have to see a different side of Light Pulse and test potentially whether he's got that little bit of an extra X factor to move his team forward in a different playstyle than we've seen him in so far. He and Raheen have been dueling it out down here, but while the health bars are getting low, nothing's come of it just yet.
Yeah, this has been an absolute battle down in this bot side. It is Bluster who's here off the back of his clear, started up on that top side to make his way down here in time for any form of play, but Griffin actually ahead of the play right now. He was able to clear his entire jungle, get the crab, go back to base, and is now out on the map with his first recall. He's just been spotted though on a ward, so they know that the Hecarim's down here and they're going to have full information. This is kind of the time where Radiance have to sack off and go back to base, or they could be in trouble.
Oh my lord, they can't though. Their recalls get cancelled by Griffin going aggressive. Scooped and Frey have managed this wave perfectly, and you can hear the energy sort of building in my voice because it's a very small thing, but the waves have been managed perfectly for this Misfortune Soraka lane to be succeeding, and well, now they might just start paying for it. Grievous Wounds laid down on the floor. Raheen and Light Pulse separate Frey and Scooped for just a moment, but still, this Misfortune Soraka very much succeeding as the shield comes down, the attack speed is building, cleanse comes through for Scooped, and as Frey goes low, Scooped still needs to find those last 2-3 autos, but just can't.
Pivotal skill shots going wide in the lead up to this trade. Raheen missing the hail of arrows, good side steps, whatever you want to call it.
Looking very, very close still. Frey on a knife's edge of HP is still stepping up right now. Raheen has flash available, but you're playing with fire. Frey, no flash, and there it is. Burst of blood perfectly executed by Raheen. It's what he needed to do, and now he may just pay for it with his life underneath the tower. Griffin collects the kill and gets out on sub 100 HP. The margins are thin, but 2 kills tells us that they were sure to be crossed by both these teams.
And whilst it's a 1-for-1, this is so much better for no team than it is for Radiance. They've traded not only the fact that one team loses an AD carry, the other team loses support, they also get the kills in incredibly good places. Now, the leading factor here that puts no team out in front is the fact that Raheen misses what is going to be a massive wave under the turret. He starts off with this piercing arrow, and you highlighted it perfectly here, dear, that he's got the flash, cheats Ferre's timing there and picks him off. And you think that with this massive shield coming through Guardian as well, there's a chance that he's able to live, but Griffin just able to finish enough damage. And you did get to see a little glimpse of quite how many minions Raheen missed under that turret. Whether or not that ends up being a pivotal factor, as these guys have been duking it out in the 2 versus 2, we will have to wait and see, because it's going to be that Noon Quiver picked up for Raheen, so an attack speed oriented build. He's going to be looking to continually put out DPS, but in this composition, if it's not Immortal Shield Bow, then we've got some issues.
Getting a little bit of deja vu up towards the top side as Griffin has made his return, but Scooped is feeling the wrath of Radiance down on the bot side. Flashes away, no cleanse this time, no life for him. Bluster is able to take him down with the help of Raheen, and now chunk out that turret, hugely picking up a plate for the squad.
And once again, the shoe's on the other foot this time. It's a massive wave missed for Scooped down in the bot lane. He's now going to be the one who sat quite far behind. And again, both kills going into Raheen right now are putting Radiance in a very good position to utilize and leverage this bot lane to find a lead. That has been where the lion's share of the fighting has been going down here in this matchup. So absolutely no reason to assume that anything different is going to occur. Looks like they're looking for a bit of a dive on this top side, and Dragoon on this Gwen feeling very confident.
Oh yeah, Portia's super low right now, and with that Ignite as well, Barrier's not going to do you a lot of favors. Griffin is here to collect his toll, and a second kill is going to go his way as he, once again, just gets to dine and dash underneath a tower, getting this Hecarim further ahead.
Griffin is getting an absolutely banging salary for being the janitor of Summoner's Rift right now, because he's literally just walking around clearing camps, setting 200 HP targets at the turrets and going, yeah, sure, why not?
May as well, and with that, 2 kills, and like we said, a Hecarim that is starting to get ahead. You and I already know is a terrifying prospect. I'm remembering getting flashbacks to last Proving Grounds, but this was almost all we saw was Hecarims running rampant across the Rift, and while it may not be that bad anymore, you hit 1 or 2 items, and he will still surely take you down. Keep your eyes on Griffin, especially because, as we talked about earlier, he's one of the people that no team love to play around.
Yeah, obviously, we were highlighting and hyping up this mid-jungle duo. So far, the mids have been fairly dormant in our games, but we're expecting to see big things from them come those team fight phases. And Blaze now in this mid lane has reached the sort of incredible hype of laning power spikes for the time being. Vamp Scepter means he's pretty much able to sustain any form of trades, and the Berserker Greaves puts him in a very good spot to get that attack speed off on his Q cooldown, and putting him in a great position to start taking some trades. Crimson, so far though, out in front in CS and does have a slight marginal experience lead. So we'll have to see if the laning prowess continues for him. This B1 Syndra cert, or the sort of blind pick Syndra, excuse me, certainly paying dividends. As we've got Radiance, they're the ones that make the first move up towards this Rift Herald. They've elected to leave Dragon on the bot side up because they're valuing the power that these plates are going to give them.
Now, they've also brought their AD carry and support up here in a little bit of an odd move, especially so early on. We don't see this that much anymore, and I mean, mostly it's because of what Scooped and Frey are doing right now, picking up plenty of plates towards the bot side. You've got to be able to assure yourself that with Bluster picking up that Rift Herald, you're going to be able to get equal or greater value, but that's a big challenge right now for Radiance.
Dragoon can try and take this 1v2 here. I'm not sure how well it goes for him, but he's got 2 levels on either one of them here. They are going to need Bluster to come and support, because you can see it looking at your minimap. Griffin already working his way up.
Bluster burns the stun to get out. Dragoon chasing him down, but we've got Blaze on the way, and Raheen can't see him just yet. Jumps out with the Fate Seal, forces the flash. Raheen on the back foot, but Dragoon still alive as well. And now the fight is isolated as Griffin finds himself a lonely AD carry. The Wild Growth saves Raheen, though, and instead it gets turned around onto Griffin. Radiance saying no thank you, and they do it 2-3 times in a row, eventually finding themselves a massive Hecarim.
There we go, and they're going to be able to drop Herald as well, take down this turret. All those plates going in their back pocket. Starts off with a little bit of vision being missing. Bluster takes a couple of sort of auto attacks from Dragoon right here, but then Blaze forces the flash from Raheen, and then this ulti gets completely immuned by Dragoon's W. Absolute disaster. And then you think, okay, Raheen, no flash, he's surely caught out here. Heal into Guardian, into Wild Growth, into all of the insane healing that the Lulu was able to pump on out. Not a match, or was indeed here a match for the Soraka ulti that they were able to put down from across the map. And look, dear, no team, they said, we don't care for your topside shenanigans. We'll try and throw down. It didn't go quite well for them, but they never expended Foray's roam timing, never expended Scoop to do so. They spent all that time trying to take down the bot tier 1 turret. It still stands. There's still a single plate on there. No gold for an entire turret completion has gone over just yet. Whereas on the other side of things, Raheen and Lightpulse able to collect on a turret. Granted, it was shared between them and Bluster, but that first brick did go the way of Radiance.
Consolation Infernal Drake gets taken by no team, but Griffin is hard-pressed to even collect the Krug on his way out of the jungle as Radiance are starting to take that small bit of gold that they accrued as a lead up towards topside and turn it into much, much more. 3 strong down in the bot lane means that Raheen is now getting plates, and with still 2-3 minutes to go, we're going to get some fights happening before plates end up falling. Griffin starts off on the engage, gets the heals from the Soraka, and turns things around with the bullet time. Radiance took a bad path out, and they may not be out just yet.
Not quite the range here for the Yone to find that engage, and that's a rare thing that you'll end up hearing me say right there. We are going to be able to get a little look back, though, at how all of this started. Raheen just a little bit slower here to move away toward the team, and they think they've caught Griffin unawares here. Unfortunately, unstoppable means that the polymorph does nothing, and feared right on into the bullet time. A little glimpse, a little foreshadowing for what no team can expect to be trying to accomplish during the teamfight phases of this game. Radiance now, though, they've had enough farming plates. It's time to play mid lane ping pong. Raheen, he's going to be sat mid lane, and I don't expect him to be moving for anything other than those objectives.
This is my favorite game, Rudude, where we just pass the minions back and forth. The AD carries get more and more ludicrously fed, and the map, hopefully, gets played around them. We've had Griffin running around left, right, and center, but for the most part, where Radiance's plays have been made have been around Raheen this game, and that, at the very least, I'm really enjoying about this move, because getting the guy who all the plays are being made around into the center of the map seems like a pretty darn good idea if you're hoping to make more of them.
And this is going to be a really telling game for Raheen, obviously coming back into a squad where, okay, check die.
Frame, maybe okay. Burns the Wish there. Heartbreaker not going to find him underneath the tower. And unfortunately, Wild Growth going to be used there. Bluster ends up going down, actually, to the Gale Force from Scooped. And what was a 3v2 gets outplayed by no team underneath their tower.
Soraka healing, baby. I mean, you have to buy some sort of Executioner's Calling, and they've got it in their inventory. It just wasn't enough. Now Raheen challenged.
Can Griffin actually go up against a Lulu and a Varus? Odds would say no, especially as the exhaust goes down, but he does it nonetheless, and now, well, a solo Lulu, not nearly as challenging. That is 2 quick kills, and you understand why as the items come back up. 5-1 on the Hecarim now, and the completed Trinity Force puts him ahead above the rest.
Yeah, all of the kills for no team were focused on this Hecarim. Of course, with the level lead, with the lack of resources that Radiance had, he's going to be able to try and take this fight. Remember, no wild growth because they just use it in the skirmish mid lane. They were more than capable of, thinking they could take that fight. And then once again here, a little replay of really nicely played mechanics from Scoop, consistently putting out the DPS and then using the Gale Force to finish off the job. And then now Griffin, the absolute charge through his own jungle. 2 people trying to take out wards. What do you think you are doing? The 2-level lead, the red smite here is enough. Exhaust comes down very late here. Raheen already about 15% HP before that one comes out, but I don't know that it would have made a difference either ways. Trinity Force plus Conqueror, certainly a fairly lethal combo.
This guy is, honestly, absolutely terrifying, because I've seen a lot of Hecarims with Trinity Force spikes. I've seen a lot of Hecarims that were ahead, but I've never seen the Hecarims with that much audacity. Yep. Griffin just disregarding everything in his path, and this sort of confidence, knowledge of his limits is, I want to say, uncharacteristic of most junglers. At 5-1 now, his limits are honestly to the sky, because let's not forget, he's going to have a Soraka at his back, and there are so many other threats you've got to worry about with a Gwen and a Yone that really, Radiance have very few tools to deal with.
Yeah, and since Yumi got gutted a couple patches ago,
May she rest in peace.
may she rest there forever. Soraka is quite happily going to be taking the place of this really strong healing support that can pair up quite nicely with this Hecarim, right? If you're consistently able to find a route to the Hecarim, which is normally the downfall of the Soraka more so than anything else, getting into a position to heal the Hecarim can often put yourself in a whole heaping world of danger. But for the time being, the Soraka healing has been able to come through, has been utilized very efficiently, and of course, a recent Soraka buff that came through was the fact that Wish removes grievous wounds, so they have to be reapplied now upon the ultimate from Soraka coming down. And whilst we have one source of healing reduction already from Bluster, you can see Light Pulse skipping his mythic here, working his way straight towards that Chemtech Putrefier, an item pathway that I am incredibly happy about.
Yeah, this is a very, very smart adaptation and very much a necessary one as well. We see why, well, up towards the top side, yeah, we're diving in Ornn. That's exactly what's happening on the Academy broadcast. There are no two ways about it. This inhibitor tower is going down, and it's to a Rift Herald, no less. No team, they see that inch with everybody up towards the mid lane, and they take a mile, decimating the base of Radiance.
I mean, Griffin has really gone up the corporate chain very quickly here. He went from janitor in the early stages to judge, jury, and now executioner. He's just deciding who dies and just clicking all. He sees a target, he wants to kill them. Okay, guess what? It's like that. You killed them. Well done. Congratulations here, because this guy is incredibly strong. 6-1-0. There's one other kill on his squad, and that is currently on the AD carry. So Scooped obviously worked for that one, did very well. But not even the fact that it's just he's getting all the kills, he's the one initiating all of the plays. 6 out of 7 KP for him. Again, you're looking across the rest of the squad, the next best is 3. Not even 50% here of the kills shared between the rest of the squad. This has been Griffin exclusively running around the Rift, picking up kills, picking up these plays, and leveraging that into allowing his team to farm up, get even further ahead of their laning opponents, so that the gold can be spread even better amongst the squad.
I mean, Lord,
oh, there's another target.
Griffin, you are just a titan right now, absorbing an ultimate, a summoner spell, everything, and even then, Porsche doesn't even get the second part of it off. Griffin, far and away, our leader in almost every statistic right now. You saw it on the left hand of your screen, but now he's preparing for his most important mission. You and I have seen it for 3 games now already. These mid lane towers are everything.
Rift Herald number 2 would have been very crucial to try and take these down. Oh my.
Doesn't quite get the fear there, but Light Pulse is still pulled in by Blaze with a beautiful reposition of the wall, and the Fate Sealed. Raheen and Light Pulse do not get to play League of Legends today. This mid lane tower, under a lot of siege, will thankfully be saved by Crimson and Bluster.
So happy we got to see that combo in action. Fate Sealed bullet time. Like I said, you get hit by 1, you're gonna go down. And it's a little bit of setup from Griffin, but honestly, Blaze with an incredible angle there to look for, and he finds it. Takes down 2 members here. Fortunately for Radiance, Crimson comes on in, and kind of the next wave of tower defense spawned on in. The Syndrome much better with the wave clear, and when there's no ultis to deal with here, it's very easy to clear out those minions. But for the time being here, no team, you can see it down at the bottom of your screen. They've turned around that mid-game trough, and they are now 4,000-5,000 gold ahead, and they are looking very confident here. Pretty much off the back of Griffin. But you have to give credit, of course, over to Blaze and Scoop for that play, because that was an incredible foray of what they can do.
Yeah, they have really turned it on now. They've been able to group up. This entire team has around Griffin and are looking pretty darn good, especially if they're going to be able to pick off Porsche here. And I suspect that they just might. You've got Dragoon once again, and Bluster, I think, twice about joining this fight, but we've got a teleport coming in, and it may be more than just these 2 members of Radiance. With Bluster going low, Dragoon manages to immune the stun just in time and get out to safety, drawing so many resources towards the bot lane again.
But what are they doing on the other side of the map? Fortunately here, the answer kind of nothing, right? The solo laners or the people that are in the top lane, they currently don't exist. Blaze now finally making his way up to the top side. Crimson as well, obviously utilizing his TP down there to try and dissuade the play. So obviously no team coming out on top, but not quite finding the 100% really. You know, not the entirely best case scenario here, as they were trying to keep on snowballing here, using this Hecarim to continually find plays in this matchup. And we've got to 20 minutes here, dear. It has been a fairly slow-paced early to mid-game right now. And the first kill coming through fairly late on, and that Baron could be taken incredibly quickly. You know, we've got 2 items on our AD carry. The Yone starting to stack up his second item as well. Dragoon, incredibly powerful, 2 levels ahead of the Ornn right now. Well, now just the 1, since Porsche actually levels up at exactly the wrong time. But he's just taking this tier 2 by force. This is that leveraging that I was talking about that Griffin had allowed because he was so strong, because he's, you know, it's not just the 2 assists that he gives over, it's all of the XP that's missed, the minions that are missed. It's allowed Dragoon to form his own lead, to become self-sufficient in that side lane, not to a point where he can survive, but to where he can win in the side.
It's really incredible to watch, with Dragoon really taking off. This mid lane tower going to fall as well. 3 members of Radiance were committed up towards the top side to try and keep their own, I'll say, win condition alive. We talked about Crimson a little bit earlier on and how important he is to the team's plan. Right now, he's the one who is by far the furthest ahead, has the most CS in the game. The thing that's concerning me, Rooted, is that I'm not sure whether Syndra can actually do too much later on in this game. Already getting a stun onto Blaze, may still be taken down by Dragoon, who just now is coming in and turning directly onto Bluster. Ult's already been expended by Dragoon, and now he is all alone. The teleport comes in to try and save him. A single knockup will connect, but still, Crimson cannot be peeled and cannot survive.
Yeah, Porsche gonna get chased down here as well. A 2 versus 3 in favor of no team. They have got absolutely everything. The cake, the icing, the sprinkles, the Baron as well here. Why ever not? We'll take it all as they elect to take this 2 versus 3 here. They know the strengths. They know what they can do with this composition, and yeah, I mean, it is just nasty. The Gwen W means that Crimson just has no say in anything whatsoever. Soraka Wish comes down as well, and it is just absolutely brutal to watch if you're a Radiance fan.
It is, and it is a divide and conquer by Blaze and Dragoon in the end, but ultimately one that was probably unnecessary. Had they both been knocked up, they could easily take this, and it's not because Crimson is playing poorly, it's not because Porsche is, I don't know, not landing his stuff. He is. They're all doing fine, but compositionally, an Ornn and a Syndra just aren't gonna match up to a Gwen and a Yone. It's the reality that we're living in now, and it's the reality that we'll continue to live in for the foreseeable future.
It's exactly what we said in the draft, right? If you look at these side lanes for no team, they just win, right? We touched on it right there, that the way these side lanes are going to play out, we're expecting Yone to have the better of Syndra, you expect the Gwen to have the better of the Ornn, and that's just the reality that Radiance have got to face up to right now. You don't expect to lose out when you send your jungler there as well, but that's a state of the game type situation and not just a composition of the games.
Griffin getting chunked out ever so slightly on the retreat here. One of the less powerful Barons that we've seen so far, at least in the mid lane push. But when we look towards the side lanes, you can see the answer to that being set right just now. Up in the top side, Dragoon is pushing. We all know nobody can answer him. Down on the bot side, Blaze is side laning, and even if you can address Griffin, Scooped, and Frey, the reality is that you are not coming out of this situation in a winning scenario. Radiance, for right now, it's about losing the least, and oh my lord, Raheen, he's trying to gain the most, trumping on top of Frey. He does get the kill, but Scooped still should be able to survive, at least you would think. Stun, not gonna quite connect, and now in from the side comes Griffin, while Dragoon is in the base trying to decimate the inhibitor. Griffin is decimating the entire team of Radiance, finding 1 kill in a 2v3, and with Scooped backing him up, he does eventually go down. Blaze, a little bit separated, tries to peel for him, but Bluster does eventually take the kill. Still alive on this misfortune. It is a fight against time, and Blaze is the last one left alive, weirdly enough.
Yeah, getting a little overzealous here, I suppose, no team, but overall, they still get a fairly good profit from this. They didn't even... I guess this top side is where it kind of went wrong for Dragoon more so than anything else. If he picks up a kill here, or at least looks to have not. No. Okay.
We
It's
see
sad,
where it went
sad
wrong.
there. Yeah, we see what happened. There we go. I don't know why I'm trying to predict things that I haven't seen. But either way, Raheem here, he's able to pick up the shutdown now. And honestly, one of the best places that you could look towards this is an on-hit Varus style, which I'm more than happy with here, to try and, in some way, deal with Griffin. This is like the best second option here, unless you go for Kraken Slayer PD as your true tank cutting build. You've gone for the on-hit as well, which deals a good amount of magic damage, which unfortunately is exactly what Griffin has spec'd in towards. It's like building magic damage against a Mundo here. He just loves building Spirit Visage when he's got the Conqueror, when he's going to have Soraka as well. The inbuilt synergy of these champions in this item is just untold right here.
Yeah, I'm checking in with the Grievous Wounds right now, and while I like the direction that Bluster has gone in with the Chemtech Putrefier completed on Light Pulse, seems nice. It just... It's ever, is it going to be enough? That's always going to be the question, and with the multi-threat composition of No Team, it's unlikely that you're hitting all of the people that are going to be healing with Blaze, Griffin, and Dragoon, who are going to be all up in your business. Griffin now trying to move around the map and keep his team in the know here, has let the vision lapse ever so slightly, as have No Team entirely, with 23 seconds on the Dragon. It isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's something I'd like to see them correct before the next objective.
Yeah, and I think that this objective here is most decidedly going over to No Team without any form of consequence or any form of contest. You can see 3 members of Radiance up on the top side. They have no intention here at trying to take down that Chemtech Dragon, or Hextech Dragon, excuse me.
Crimson up in a fight against Dragoon for right now. This should actually be fine with the 2v1 in their favor, but Dragoon gets a lot of healing, gets the stasis as well, and now Blazes come in, unfortunately whiffs on the Fate Sealed, and now jumps right back into his own 1v3. You still do get the Dragon, but you lose an unnecessary amount as No Team, and potentially even more if they're able to crash this wave.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be trying to pick up some turrets, which is honestly best case scenario, but Griffin going to be coming in now.
Is alone, so he's going to die, and well, on the other side, Frey is now alone, and he should also die. Bluster is chasing him down, and Griffin, desperately trying to get back to his teammate, may just be able to pick up the kill, but Bluster going to be able to get out alive right now, and No Team are starting to show some chinks in the armor that they hadn't previously. They were doing really well, but 1, 2, 3, and 4 picks will make this very much more difficult than it had to be.
Huge recovery and a very nice time here for Radiance, just as the game seems to be seeping out of their control. 3 objective bounties is this going to be that go over to them? All starts off with Dragoon on this top side, searching for Crimson. Again, a really pivotal stun. Just buys the space, buys that time here to allow Bluster to get in. And then the Sonya's buys time for Blaze, but as we highlight, unfortunately, goes wide with the Fate Sealed. Also gets stunned on entry as well, so he can't continue to dish out any form of damage. Immediately taken out here, and those sorts of plays are the ones that do turn games here. Yes, they picked up the Dragon, and in about 5 minutes time it is indeed Soul Point, so you know, the overlay here a little bit behind. Oh no,
Griffin's still jumping on you though, and that is not going to be easy. Right out of the trap goes Blaze, jumping back with that Soul Unbound. Dragoon right on top of Raheen as well is causing a lot of problems, but he doesn't have the invulnerability, and Crimson ends up taking him down. Everybody trapped inside of this choke point, and with no bullet time, seems like No Team are having a difficult time of it. But as time goes on, it is Griffin that finally emerges victorious, chasing everyone down, and unfortunately, the heals were just a little bit too strong with No Team for Radiance, who did otherwise well to be able to take that.
They absorbed so much right there, and they played that fight incredibly well. They just don't have Soraka on their team. They never managed to find access to the little unicorn in the backline, and unfortunately, she was just sustaining everybody on No Team right there. You've got the Yone who's got inbuilt lifesteal, you've got Conqueror as well. Truly was just a kind of crazy team fight right there to see.
What I would give to see that team fight again, actually, because I was so focused on the Dragoon-Raheen interaction, and when that went poorly, I started panicking, Rooted. I was like, oh, well, this actually isn't going to go in No Team's favor at all. They just lost I think they lost the first kill, and It was on Dragoon, one of their big frontliners. From that point on, it should have been Radiance continuing to cascade, but as you illustrate, these heals just kept keeping them in the game, and even in a 4v5, it really felt even, and even a little bit uneven, in the favor of No Team.
It's easy to forget, right, that we saw one sort of throw from No Team, and we still have to think that this Hecarim is incredibly powerful. This guy has been cleaning up on the Rift, picking up kill after kill, and you know, still has that sort of power in the match to facilitate these sorts of plays where if you have a Soraka at your back, you've got the Conqueror, you've got Spirit Visage, you have Soraka. Dealing damage to the Hecarim is not a foregone conclusion, right? You'd start healing him at a certain point if you don't quite have the DPS to go through it. And unfortunately, it's Radiance to find that one out firsthand, quite how daunting this prospect can be. Hecarim as a champion does tend to get a little bit weaker later on into the game, but we're getting that alleviated by the fact that he has an incredibly large lead to start to build up with, and also the fact that he's just got a Soraka building him on from the back as well to keep him even more topped off.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not feasible to be able to take him down in short order, and it's where we see the burst from Radiance be so important. I really like that they were able to focus Dragoon. If they can get that same sort of focus onto somebody like Frey, the fight turns, but this goes all the way back to something that we talked about before the game got to yet another Baron, which is that it's very difficult to access the Soraka. Who are you doing it with?
You've made a very... That's exactly the point here. No Team now off the back of that fight in the jungle of Radiance are going to be able to move their way into the Baron as well, having collected the mid lane inhibitor. Just getting snippets here of crucial objectives will break open your base and take one inhibitor. We have top lane open for another time. We'll use the Hextech gates to move into the Baron with incredible speed and swiftness here and get ourselves out onto the map with this Baron here in no short time whatsoever. Hextech Drake not going to be up for another couple minutes or so, and that will be the soul for No Team if they can collect it. But we've seen shimmers, glimpses here of what Radiance can look to do in these team fights, but Raheem's stepping up.
Oh, Griffin smells blood and he ults right in. The bullet time over the top as well. Brings Blaze in with the fate sealed, and already the pick has gone down onto Raheen, and already the team fight is over. No Team should be able to win it. Griffin, though, gets focused down
Blaze.
as he jumps away. It is Blaze that takes over. You swap out who can heal, who can 1v9, and No Team never run out of answers. Bluster being chased down on the back end is a formality. It is Griffin, I will say, getting a little bit antsy, but what it really is time for the game to end. No Team have done miraculously, and with a second inhibitor being picked up now, with Baron up super minions in the base, they're going to be sending themselves the first game win of this best of 3 between Radiance and the now 1 point up No Team.
An incredible match by No Team here. A jungler's dream for Griffin. He started out the game 7-1, set up his solo laners for success, and set up the entire lane, every lane, all of his carries for success, and boy did they deliver right there. That final team fight, I will add, was fought 5 versus 4. Dragoon was quite happy. Hitting creeps down in bot lane was never even needed. Just goes to show you the power, the strength here that this No Team roster do have in their arsenal. Just an incredible performance from start to finish to keep themselves out on top and put themselves to what is a convincing 1-0.
Yeah, I like that even the team fight itself at the very end seemed kind of impromptu, because Griffin rounded a corner, saw that there were 4 people, and went, huh.
Oh.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty cool fight. Let's do it. And they did. And
See
it was
hero, kill
incredible. Yeah, they already knew that they could fight without Dragoon, as odd as it may sound, because Dragoon was also doing really well in the side lane. But just as our analyst desk pointed out, as we kept calling back to, it was Griffin that everybody on No Team ended up rallying around, who was incredible on this Hecarim, and who warped the game in such a way that I can't fault Radiance for not predicting it, not being able to play around it, because I don't think anybody really could.
No, I mean, they kind of, it felt really strange, honestly, that game, the way that Griffin got these leads, because it was one quick dive on a low HP member bot lane, one dive on the low HP member top lane, and then all of a sudden, the Hecarim was 7-1, and then we were like, when did these 2 points come to be together, right? Because all of a sudden, this Hecarim's got a Trinity Force. He goes for that 2v1 on the back of the Drake Pit, and just incredible knowledge of what his champion can accomplish, puts himself out in front and sets up the entire team for this win.
Well, we got to see this massive Titan sort of construct itself on No Team, and we got to see Radiance battle their way back into the point where they almost could have taken the game. And, well, we talked throughout the whole thing. There are so many more things to bring up, and that is going to be the job of our big brain analyst desk. The three wise men, Travesty, Smacks, and Cubby, are waiting for you on the other side. So we're going to toss it over to them and see what they had to say about that game.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on back to the desk. We are ready to get into what was a pretty fun game to watch. It was great to see. We talked about it earlier. I believe we called it the Zoomer group earlier. And I want to jump right into the Zooms, man. We had some zooming happening here inside this game. Specifically, Griffin, the ultimate Zoomer, on this Hecarim, man. He was taking names throughout this game.
The ultimate Zoomer. Yep, that's definitely him. He was very fast. He went for the Trinity Force build, dealing all the damage on Hecarim. And yeah, he was actually really well optimized on the clear that we saw him do, the Soraka as well. I liked a very, very large chunk of his gameplay in this game.
Absolutely. And I mean, you were talking about the gameplay. I know that, Cubby, you were a big fan of how Griffin played inside of the early game as well, piloting this Hecarim and really making sure to make the most use out of this fast-traveling jungler here.
Yeah, so when we talked a lot about how he wants to try and really funnel himself. And that's exactly what Griffin was able to do. So his first clear, was able to get a full clear off, got the top crab. He was going from bot to top. And this is an awkward play, like state of the lane, because right now we have Griffin already on a reset, taking his second clear of camps, whereas you just saw Bluster hovering bot side from his top to bot clear to make sure that Raheem and Light Pulse were able to reset. The tough part about that is that they were not able to reset or find a play off of the heavy trading. So eventually, the heals take over. They end up having a much higher health bar to go into this fight. And Griffin, after, keeping himself fed, says, you know what, I'm going to skip my top side. I'm going to go affect bot because Raheem and Light Pulse are low. Pulls off a beautiful dive, getting through all the Lulu heal and damage. And from here, when you get that on-hit Varus behind, when you have that Ornn top, it got really hard for the side of Radiance to kind of have that leg to stand on. And that was the start of where we started to see Griffin go, because after that, he bases, he flips his clearing, so guess what? He's pathing top to bot, so we can punish that bot lane again, where they just got the advantage, and Griffin just was able to snowball this game beautifully. Some really high-level jungling coming out from this 15-year-old in his first competitive games.
Yeah, and Raheem was really behind off of that as well, dying there with
double wave
a double stacked wave there. Ooh, that is definitely a bad time. Yes, he did get that first kill, but you lost your flash, you lost all of those minions over to Scooped on the MF. It's a bad time to be that Varus.
Yeah, I would definitely say Griffin came in there with a mission, for sure, as the Varus did not have a very fun time. But I would definitely say you could say that a lot about a lot of members here in the side of Radiance. They had a lot of issues going on their team. One of the big ones you could see across the table, Dragoon was having a fantastic time against the Ornn in the top lane, and it really felt like No Team had a lot of sense here on how they wanted to play this. And here we have another replay here of just how much of a monster Griffin is.
So this is a really important replay. Ooh. One, because the team fights and the ultimate precision was really good, but also Blaze on this Yone, that was the first thing he participated in the entire game. And that was at around 16 minutes. He already had 80% crit chance on this Yone. Actually a really big deal. We saw the Yone and the Yasuo, his brother, really struggle in the last series because they tried to get things done earlier rather than later. Yone and Yasuo are scaling champions. You do need to get those crits online. The 0-10 power spike is a myth. It's not solo queues here, everyone. So you do want to actually wait before you get these mid laners in on the fighting, and that's exactly what they did with Blaze in this game.
and it was a fantastic way for them to really showcase some of their skills. They were able to get it into the mid game. I do want to bring up something. I feel like it would be disingenuous of me if I didn't bring this up. No team didn't have the cleanest game, though. We're showing these clips. We're talking about some of the snowball in here, but there were a couple question mark pings that I feel like we were internally sending off as we were seeing some plays happen. A little bit of misplays, a little bit of oversteps, a little hyphy-ness coming in there, and Radiance did a great job capitalizing on some of those moments here. As we can see here in the mid lane, Cubby, this is big.
Yeah, so actually a lot of credit to Raheen here, flashing forward and finding that pick, and then Norg from here kind of falls apart. They're going for split plays, so Dragoon on the bot side was trying to find this inhibitor, find this 1v2, whereas on the flip side, they're outnumbered because they just lost a member as well. And Bluster ended up having a really nice mechanical fight on the Viegos. So, I mean, this is some of the youthfulness kind of showing from No Team. I know that speaking with Blaze beforehand, they only played 7 scrim games before OQs. There are a lot of young members on this team. They kind of have all been friends before, according to Blaze, but really came together last second with the insane roster shuffle that always happens in amateur, where it's like, well, I want to play on this team unless this team gives me an offer, and then I can maybe go to this team as well, which is like interesting, and everything kind of falls to place last second. So I think that it's natural. We're going to see some mistakes. And you know, that's why you got the tag not, right? Sometimes you just don't want to be identified. That's fine. It's amateur. You can make some mistakes as long as, you know, you're trying to grow and develop throughout your path. You know, it's all good. And eventually No Team was able to pull it together and find the win in the end.
Yeah, the power of friendship is definitely there. They got to work on the power of communication, the power of closing out games in a clean manner, but the power of friendship is definitely there, and I think it's going to take them really far in this tournament.
Oh, absolutely. With that being said, I mean, really great showing from them. I do think we do have Radiance taking over onto the red side going into the Nets game, I do believe. So that's going to be interesting to see how they end up adapting and going into this game number 2, as they've got a couple of questions that they got to solve here. With that being said, take ourselves a short break. When we come back, going to see that mystery get solved possibly here as Radiance look to bring this game and get themselves into a series. So we're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere.